Okay, welcome everyone. It is really a thrill to have you here. We're in a webinar. This is Seattle Opera. My name is Naomi André. I'm the scholar in residence, and I have with me Alexandra LoBianco, who is our amazing Tosca in this production.
You are so kind.
Oh my gosh, no, I am just telling the truth. We've got a lot of wonderful things happening, and there are a couple of things that'll happen before we jump right into the questions. First, I want to welcome you all here. It is just a thrill to have you here. Second is if you've got questions, and we will definitely have time near the end to weave them in, but don't feel like you have to wait until that point. You at the bottom of the webinar, there's a Q&A function, so just put your questions there, and we look forward to seeing them and answering them. I also want to make a land acknowledgement, which is, before we begin this conversation, I'd like to start by acknowledging that in addition to being the scholar in residence at the Seattle Opera, I'm a professor at the University of Michigan, and I'm here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The university was named for Michigami, and it's the world's largest freshwater system located in the Huron River watershed. And it was formed and has grown through connections with the land stewarded by the Niswe Ishikadoan Ashkenabeg, the Three Fires people, who are the Ojibwa, the Odana, the Potawatomi, along with their neighbors, the Seneca, Delaware, Shawnee, and Wyandot nations. LoBianco is joining us from Chicago, not too far from Michigan, and there are a lot of the similar Native American groups who were part of that land. The Chicago Council of the Three Fires, with the Ojibwa, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and many other tribes such as the Miami, the Ho-Chunk, the Menominee, Sauk, and Fox are also called this area home. This is being hosted by the Seattle Opera, and that the Seattle Opera in Seattle, Washington, is located on the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish community, in particular the Duwamish people. Though this represents only a small step in my mentioning these things up front, and a small step towards reversing the erasure of Indigenous histories and honoring those who continue to be stewards of this land, we hope that this acknowledgement may contribute to our collective healing, our general knowledge, and a true reconciliation. Moving on to this discussion of Tosca and focusing on Tosca, I want to say that over the weekend, I had the opportunity to watch this Seattle Opera Tosca opera film, and to see I want to talk about some other wonderful resources that Seattle Opera has put together for this opera. So you can go to seattleopera.org/Tosca, and you'll be able to download the program booklet for the opera, view photos of the production, hear clips from past Seattle Opera productions, and you can read an interview with the stage director, Dan Wallace Miller, about the unique challenges of staging this particular production. And that really refers to what was it like doing this during the pandemic, which we might touch on in our discussion. And please feel free, if you've got more questions, to put those in the Q&A. Also, I want to let you know that ticket holders have a chance to watch the pre-show talk video for Tosca presented by Seattle Opera's dramaturg, Jonathan Bean. And I got to watch this, and he does an amazing job. You think you know Tosca, and you do, but there are more things. There's always more things to learn, and Jonathan Bean does a great job with that. The last little bit of information is actually how you can see this. And it opened on Friday. And for the season ticket holders, it's available. Tosca, the opera film, is available now through June 27th. So it's about 3 weeks. Individual ticket holders will have a chance to view it for 1 weekend only from June 25th through June 27th. So want to say, just don't miss it. And here we have this wonderful conversation that's going to start. Let me introduce to you, and you can go online, go to the Seattle website, all these other places to learn more about our heroine, Tosca. Alexandra, also, she's letting me call her Lexi LoBianco.
Please.
Well, I just want to give you all the respect because you are Floria Tosca. On stage and off stage, you have this opera diva persona, but not really. More that's your title. On stage, you play it beautifully. Off stage, you are the most wonderful, down-to-earth, fun opera diva that's out there. And I've gotten to learn this, but also our audience will get to soon. So your hometown is in St. Petersburg, Florida. And your Seattle Opera debut was with Donna Anna and Don Giovanni in 2014. Also at Seattle Opera, you've sung Aida in 2018. And in other works, I mean, you have been singing a lot, and you're right at the point where your voice is moving in amazing directions. So you've sung Chrysanthemus with Electra at the
we just call her Chrysanthemum, please.
I know, it's like, yeah. Thank you.
Chrysanthemum, yes, Chrysanthemum.
That's one. The one that sounds a little like a flower.
That
right?
one, yep.
And you've been the prima donna Ariadne and Ariadne in Strauss's Ariadne of Naxos at the Austin Opera, Helmvega in Die Valkyrie at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. You're going to be singing Tosca at Portland Opera. It's a role you've sung before, so we can talk about your sort of familiarity, your great knowledge of it. Aida and Opera Carolina, Leonora and Fidelio at North Carolina Opera. So your voice is just this incredible, you do so many different languages, the spinto, the dramatic, but also you've done Mozart not too long ago. So you're just at this beautiful sweet spot with singing.
We call it the Mack truck. We call it just the Mack truck. It's fine.
Well, it's like the most beautiful, graceful Mack truck I've ever seen. Maybe one of those extra lovely Peterbilt ones. I kind of like those. They're not as boxy as some of the others. You have received your education in theater, voice, and you're also a clarinet player.
I am.
And speaking to us from Chicago, as we've established, and you're also, it sounds like you've got a wonderful studio with this next generation of opera singers, as well as being a real advocate for music education. So that was my big introduction. I know I've spoken way too much.
No pressure at all.
No, not at all. Because it's sort of an unusual situation with this pandemic is we already have you singing the role. And so people, maybe there are a couple of people who've already seen it, but hopefully a whole lot more will be watching it throughout the month until June 27th. So I'm interested in, you're from St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm interested, how did you get into opera with the clarinet, with other things?
Oh man, this is a journey. It starts with being adopted by my extraordinary family. I'm adopted.
I don't. My daughter. Wow.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that. What an extraordinary opportunity she has to have you as a mom. She's so lucky. I was adopted by my family, and then I was lucky to have this beautiful family that brought me into their home, and then they also gave me an education in music. And I started with preschool singing, and then they always took me to the symphony. They always took me to whatever theater was around. They took me. My mom has a longtime passion for classical music. We used to play a game on Saturday mornings, and this will tell you everything you need to know about me and my mother. Our game was that she would put on NPR on Saturday mornings, and we would cook. And while we were cooking and listening to NPR, she would ask me questions. What time period do you think that is? Who's the composer?
Oh. You are amazing. I actually try to do this with my daughter, and she's like, Mom, I'm not one of your students. But she's 12 now, so there's like a lot of issues.
Exactly. But
Wow.
this is what my mom and I used to always do. And I love my mother. My mother has an extraordinary ear. My mother is an incredible human being who's an attorney. My dad's a retired judge. My mom's a retired attorney at this point in time.
Wow.
But she always loved singing and always loved it. So I was just exposed throughout elementary school and throughout middle school. And like I changed schools, and then I was offered the band program. Oh, well, what did you want to play? I think I want to play the clarinet. My brother played the saxophone, so I want to be like my brother. So
Oh,
I'll play a woodwind
the
instrument.
clarinet because my daughter plays the clarinet because her birth mother played the clarinet. And so I wanted to pass it on. So this is just incredible.
Well, the only story I know about my biological is that my biological mother was a singer.
Oh my goodness. Of course.
Wow. That's one of the only things I know about her so far. So it for a while it was this journey of finding music, this thing that always my grandmother used to say I sang coming out of the womb, meaning I would just be humming and doing things. I would sit by her button drawer and I would just make up songs and play in her buttons and while she was sewing and doing the thing. My grandmother was French Canadian. She always sewed, always did things, and so from there, it was a journey of, I was a pretty darn good clarinet player. Not gonna lie. I actually thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a symphony clarinet player. I wanted to play. I actually wanted to be a Broadway clarinet player because I wouldn't have to just play clarinet. I could play bari sax and tenor sax and clarinet and flute, and I could play all the things because that's what I professionally did right out of high school. As I actually was on scholarship for my clarinet, not my voice. No one thought I was going anywhere vocally right out of college, right out of high school.
You always sang, but this was like
that was the thing I was told I was good at. So, and everyone thought I was really going to do that. And I was also told, but you're not really that good. So it was a combination of you're not really that good, but
keeping you humble, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
So that you had a voice that comes out a little bit later. It's not going to peak when you're 14.
Exactly. And I was very lucky that I have an extraordinary high school choir director who looked at me and said, Lexi, have you ever thought about opera? And I went, I love it. I don't really think I have the voice for it. He's like, you got a big voice.
Great. Yeah.
So that began kind of the twirling and the whirling of the journey towards having it as a career. But what I remember the moment when it really became my job, and it's later than a lot of people. And it was actually on my first professional opera job out of college. I heard, I was living in North Carolina and I was married at the time, and I heard on the radio, Opera Carolina is having auditions for their chorus this weekend. I was listening to NPR again, shocking. But so I talked to my now ex-husband, who is a dear friend, but I talked to him and I said, what do you think? He's like, go. So I drove from Boone, North Carolina, 2.5 hours down to Charlotte, sang, was hired on the spot to join the chorus.
Wow.
I was 22 years old.
Oh my gosh, just a babe. Yeah.
I was a baby. 22 years old, getting ready to get married. We were just getting ready to get married. Actually, we were just engaged at the time. Okay. And so I drove back up and I went, I got hired. What do I do? He's like, you drive back and forth. So I would drive 2 hours down to rehearsal and drive 2 hours back. Whoa. And yeah, but Cold Sassy Tree was my very first job as in the chorus of all things.
Wow.
Not a Carmen, not, a Bohème, Cold Sassy Tree.
Now, wait a minute. What production is this? Cold Sassy Tree?
This is Carlisle Floyd. And okay. It's a beautiful production of the South. And it was a co-pro at that time. This is 2002. There we go. Wow. 2002. And so I go down there and I'm coming back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But I remember being in that first rehearsal in the theater, watching the principals work. Yeah. And I was just sitting there like this. God, well, I want to do that.
To go backstage or like to be there and to see it. But there was something a little more than the awe. It sounded like you thought,
It was the moment when I knew I could do it. The moment I thought about it as, wow, what is this? Was my first journey to the Met in high school. And
Oh,
my parents took me to the Met, and we saw Cav Pag, and I got to see, and my parents being my parents, they spoiled me rotten in certain ways. And this is one way they did. Because I wanted to be a clarinet player, they got us front row tickets at the Met so I could see into the pit.
oh,
So
wow.
I could see the orchestra.
And then you got the sound.
But then I got the sound and I went, how do they do that? And it was one of those, huh? Moments in my life. So that was the beginning. The confirmation was the moment that I was sitting in rehearsal just going, that's what I want to do. That's it. That's what I want to do. And just this light bulb of, now how do I do it? How do I really do it? And then a couple of years later, Classical Singer did their very first convention, and I decided to go on a whim. It was my first travel. I don't come from a family of musicians. I don't come from anybody who knows how to do this. So I went on my own. It's also where I met my mentor.
Oh, I was going to say, did you have a teacher at this point? Did you?
This is where I met my mentor. I met her there, and I read her book at the time. It was Are You Ready? This Business of Music. Her name is Carol Kirkpatrick. She's a woman who saved my life vocally, and I say that most sincerely. She saved my life. She got me through my divorce, got me through post-divorce insanity, and also gave me a technique that I have been building and settled in for the past 2 decades.
Wow. Because I remember when we had an opportunity to speak a little bit before, you said that you had started as a soprano, which is not a soprano, or a mezzo soprano.
I started as a mezzo.
And what wasn't a surprise to me is that in a mezzo, it probably showed that you had a lot of sort of strength, and I don't want to use words like metal or heft, but there was just
I got steel.
A lot.
I got
Okay,
steel.
a lot
I got steel.
there. But because you also have such a high top.
But I didn't for the very longest time.
Oh.
I could barely sing an F at the top of the staff when I started college.
Oh, wow.
The top of my voice did not come in until about 26.
You see, people don't talk enough about age, and like voices pop into different bodies at different times, like different age elements, and oh my goodness. So,
but that's also when I met Carol, and she gave me the actual technique to sing and make those noises happen without panicking. I had to sing my first high C publicly in my very first compromario role, which was, who else? Who starts with Verdi besides me? My first compromario role was the lady in waiting to Lady Macbeth.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
In 2004. So I'm not that old. I was like maybe 24, 23, 24, 25.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going along through the score. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. Okay. Oh no, that's a high C.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God, how do I do that? I would go into the bathroom and I would literally be scared just screaming, trying to figure out how to make this high C come out. I had no idea what I was doing. Not a clue.
It sounds like it was such a body experience too.
It was.
I think non-singers understand that it's not just this is the instrument, but you have to figure out sort of how
it feels like.
Yes.
Yes. What it feels like.
Everything.
Yes. And so I made it happen, and every time it would work, and every time I would go, oh God, I hope it works. I hope it works. But then
in your body.
I found the high C in my body, and then my teacher taught me how to do it without worrying.
Oh, good. You knew it was there, but you didn't have a clear path each time.
No, I had no clue what I was doing. I just opened my mouth and went, here we go. And hook, push, and pray, basically. I
so appreciate your being candid with this, because
absolutely.
And the pressure on singers today to have to sing so much and be so accomplished when you're still so young. And I'm thinking, with singers, now I'm speaking as somebody who's sung for pleasure, and I think a lot about singing, and I do it for fun. But, for me, singers, it feels like a lot comes together in your late 30s and early 40s and beyond. So when we have these competitions that ask people to do things in their 20s, somehow that just feels a little rough, that we're asking. We need to be supporting the arts and supporting people through their 30s.
I totally agree with. There are voices that settle much earlier. There absolutely are, but there are other voices that just don't. we need a little more time to cook and get the sauce cooking in the right direction. You know, sometimes there's just the muscles, the coordination, when everything finishes developing, it's a completely different journey for every voice.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very honored and lucky to have had a teacher who stopped me from auditioning when I met her. She said,
wow.
Stop auditioning. I need you to learn how to do this before you get back out there.
So what
She said, I stopped auditioning. I listened to her. I didn't do any young artist programs from that point on. I had just done Sarasota. And that was the only young artist program I did. And then I took about 3.5, 4 years to really learn how to do this.
Wow.
And then while I was learning it, I did a little thing here and there to try to, get on stage. And I did theater work, and I was a stage manager. I did stage hand work. I was a teaching artist. I did anything. Absolutely. I did anything and everything I could to learn what it took to put a production together, so that when I finally began my journey in this, I could respect and speak intelligently about any aspect I needed to, and not sound like an idiot. And also
gonna make it up. Yeah. Wow.
right. But I also wanted to really understand why takes it, how much time does it take to load in a production? Because the time and the heft it takes to bring and load those lights and make sure that everything's set and all, and I've done light walking, I've done, I have done it all because I needed to know. I needed to know and understand, and again, that respect that I've done the job. Thank you. I really thank you for the amount of time and effort you put into everything you do behind the scenes before I arrive. I am so spoiled as a singer. I get to come in, I get to do my job, and I get to leave. I don't have to worry about the paperwork. I don't have to worry about, what got missed backstage, what's happening, whose pants blew out at what time on stage.
Right. Well, this seems like the perfect entry to talk a little bit about what was it like doing Tosca? Is it here with what I'm calling the opera film? Was this your first opera film that you've done? Because you seem so comfortable. And as you're thinking of that, I was so impressed with, I know you're working with Dan Wallace Miller and you've worked with him before, but just the camera on your face, your eyes are so expressive. And Tosca is one of these characters where she can be kind of teasing and flirtatious, and then she can be so sort of gentle and almost vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
It just came, and I can imagine, when you're used to singing on an opera stage, there's a little space in there, and so you might do things really large, but you were just the subtlety and the nuance, and then as well as the big gestures.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. That is extremely humbling. This was the first big up close. This is the first film I've ever done. Absolutely.
Were you nervous, or were you just like, okay,
terrified.
I just done this, I can do it?
Terrified.
Oh, that does not come through at all. Wow.
Okay, first off, I am not a small human being.
Hello.
So let me be honest. When I found out, I was like, oh God. COVID. I'm extra COVID cushy, as I like to say right now. I mean,
oh my gosh, you look, and that red dress, I love it.
I know, me too.
Oh,
me too. But the COVID cushy made me really worry about my face, my neck, my, the everything. And I kept having to say, Lexi, don't worry about it. You know what you're doing. You know who you are when you're Tosca. Just do the part. Just be Tosca. You don't have to worry about what you look like. Let Dan and let Ken worry about that. They will get the right angles. Trust them. That's their job. You have to do yours.
Yes, and you did. And
Thank you. They did a gorgeous job, but the fact of the matter, that was my very first thought, and that's very and I recognize that this is a very self-centered comment about my own physicality, but it has been a long journey of battling size in the industry of, am I too big? Am I singing the wrong repertoire? And I've been very lucky that I have been hired, no matter the size I was, to sing extraordinary repertoire and be leading roles. So I've worked my tail off to do that. And
I appreciate you just confronting that right on, because I am somebody who also sits in a large body, but I really want to hear something. I don't know, maybe this is sort of strange. I know enough about singing that when I hear something that works, I can feel it. And
yes.
when you've got, I mean, just that sound and the power and the ease, just up and down, I love seeing you. I would hate to not see you. I want to see you doing this, besides the fact that you're beautiful. But it's like, that's giving me all of this. So I just want you to know that while critics, or we live in a world that is not fair to women, also to men, how we look, there's a whole silent side that I want to bring out of the shadows to say, we love this. We want you healthy, and we want you sounding great.
Yeah.
And you seem to, you're right there. I don't want to get into personal health things, but
no.
Sounding great. And so
thank you. No. But that was one of the most terrifying parts of this is when you get in front of a camera, I had to, and because I know Dan and because I trust Dan, I could just step back and go, okay, Dan, can we have a conversation about angles and make sure that and we had a conversation about it, but then I had to trust that he would follow through on that. And I knew he would, because Dan's a smart director. He's a brilliant director. Yeah. And I'm so glad to finally work with him as the lead director on something with Seattle Opera. He was the last couple of productions, he was the assistant director. And so we've gotten to know each other over the years, but it's been wonderful.
Terrific. So, I had a feeling that we would get a question. I'm just going to jump in, and please feel free, everyone, to bring in questions. Somebody is saying, I notice your t-shirt. What are your thoughts on Maria Callas and her, and particularly if you're familiar with the film Tosca performance from London? But any of Callas and her singing, if you want to, because obviously you own this shirt and you're wearing it today.
I did. It was on purpose, because how could I not? I actually wore it to the first sing through as well in Seattle. So
oh, that's great.
I said, if you can't see my face behind my mask, you got to see someone's face. So
that's right. Oh my gosh, you had to go there. Did the whole
cast? Yes, except when we were recording, we were singing behind masks. So yes.
What is that like? Does it just come back at you? Is it weird?
It is the weirdest thing. It is. Your tendency is to over push because you're getting immediate buffering, and so you never get the sound from the room back. And so there's like this filter. Yes, you're singing through a filter basically, and it goes. Also, the filter shoves it right into your ears. So
I thought of that. Oh my Lord.
Yeah. So it's very strange. I actually would change my mask about 3 or 4 times in rehearsal period, just because I would get too hot.
I hear that there's some masks singers have used that are sort of like a big beak.
Oh yeah, I had a singer mask. I have the M94, KN94s. I had a regular cloth mask. I had all sorts of different masks, and different ones work differently for different scenes.
Wow.
So yeah.
Thoughts about Tosca? Do you have a favorite performance or a favorite fact about her? And especially that picture, she's just like right at you.
I know. Well, what I love about this picture, it was actually taken at Chicago Lyric Opera.
Oh no!
This is the picture from backstage when she was confronted by the IRS agents.
Oh my goodness! Oh wow!
Yep.
So she's not a Tosca face.
I believe it's actually Medea, not Tosca. So that's what's fun about it. It's just I believe it was Medea, but it might have been Tosca. But one or the other.
One of those big,
But this is literally her coming off stage and being caught by the someone had tipped off the paparazzi that she was going to be confronted and handed a pile of
oh my!
papers.
So people are there, click, click, click.
Yes, exactly.
My goodness.
So, yep. That's the reason that's one of the reasons I love this shirt. Also, the fact that it was a birthday present from one of my students who's one of my dearest friends. So,
oh, it sounds like you've got such a good feeling there. If your students are giving you things like that, that's nice. You're setting a good tone.
Yeah.
So I would be remiss if we couldn't talk a little bit about Tosca, the character, and
Yes.
how you have done a lot of research as to the Victorian Sardou play from 1887, Puccini's operas from 1900. But
Mhm.
most people, when we think of Tosca, we think, oh, Floria Tosca, a singer. And we think of her, running in that opening scene and just being like, notice me, or, what's
Yep.
going on? But
Yep.
you have a deeper understanding of where she's come from.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it's just that I have a deeper understanding. It's just I I have this feeling that if I don't make her real to myself and make her three dimensional, what's the point of being on stage and doing this? Because I have to play a real human being. That's my job. And so when I think about Tosca and the amount of times this is, I think, my sixth or seventh production I have done. So, but be it covering or performing her, I covered and did two productions in my first year of singing her. It was insane.
So you got a lot of Tosca.
Yeah, I've done a lot of Tosca.
You have a sense of her being both sort of this religious, having a devout religious background. It opens in a church. A lot of the opera takes place in a church. There's
Yes.
sort of the Madonnas there, but then Cavaradossi is drawing a Mary Magdalene, and Tosca is jealous.
Well, let's see. One of the reasons I love Tosca is because while she is devout and very pious, I personally don't believe that devotion is to the Almighty God. I really believe it is to Mary. And that's one of the reasons this relationship, she always going to give flowers to the Madonna. She doesn't come in to pray. She goes to give flowers to the Madonna. That's what we reference over and over and over again in the opera. And there's this idea for me, and it's why God did you take yourself away from me? Not why Mary did you take yourself away from me? Why God? It's the only time she talks about God.
So this is great. Let's go to Vici d'Arte and talk about that, because I can feel that aria in a couple of different ways. Gorgeous music, absolutely stunning. Your performance of it is just, the pianissimi is just incredible.
Thank you.
But sometimes to me, it feels that she's a devout woman and she's really upset and she's being pushed into a corner. Oh my gosh, my lover is, I think he's faithful to me, but maybe he's not, but there's this larger political situation, what's going on. Right. And then sometimes I think, oh, Tosca, you're just whining. Come on, I do all this good stuff. I give charitable gifts, and God, why are you doing this? But then you have this great idea that she says this to God, not to
me. Yes, this is to God. This is her, excuse me, pardon me. What the hell, God? It is are you kidding me? Right. I've done everything I was told would get me to the point of doing everything right. I have been raised up. It is that moment of recognition of, she doesn't say I live for God. She says I live for art. I live for love. She doesn't say I live for God. That's a really big distinction for me. She ends by saying, why did you take yourself away from me, God?
So that's the feeling. It's like he's gone. So Mary is her intercessor.
Right. Fine, God, go away. I'll take care of myself. It becomes the humanist. Wow. And she becomes, and that's why at the end, she doesn't say, I'll meet you Cavaradossi in heaven. She says, O scarpia avanti a Dio. And it's for me, it's really important to make those connections of Floria coming in, having a conversation with Mario. Floria and Mario. They're not Tosca and Cavaradossi. They're Mario. It's Mario and Floria when we first meet, because the first word she says is Mario.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. It's an intimacy. There's an intimacy there, and it's a very obvious intimacy because of the way the cat and mouse game is played in Act One. The reason that her jealousy is enraged in Act One is because Scarpia manipulates her and winds her up. He completely winds her up and gets her to explode. So she has the tendency to be jealous, of course, and we need to see the fire of Tosca, or else we don't see why she will kill somebody at the end. So we have to see the violent nature. But she was also in the Sardou play, of course, she started as a shepherdess in the field. Yeah. Which, if you're a shepherdess, you have an orphan, you have to take care of yourself. So she's scrappy. She is scrappy as all get out, and she needs to, and she knows how to take care of herself, or else she wouldn't be able to gut. If there's a wolf coming in for the sheep, she's got to make money off of those sheep if she wants to live. She had to be able to kill the predator, which is why I believe she kills Scarpia as a predator, not as a murder initially.
So it's not really a vengeance or meanness, but she's
not the first time. Not the first time.
Okay.
The second time, it's a choice. The second time, it is absolutely fine. You're gonna die.
Yeah. So I love this, where she has this, you know, an orphan raised by the nuns. So in the convent, she gets singing lessons, protecting something. And I like this sort of scrappy, like she's strong. She knows how to handle.
Very strong. She's very smart. And this is the thing that I think is underplayed very often with Tosca, is that she is smart. She would not have gotten to this position of power as a diva in the world of men, if she didn't have some smarts to be politically minded and know how to read a room and to adjust and act as needed for any situation, which is why when she comes in Act 2, Mario tu qui, Mario, you're here, what? Wait, I didn't expect to see. Oh God, everything needs to shift. I need to change tactics immediately.
And you show us that, because in the audience, we've been able to hear, you know, the plans, but you're right. When Tosca comes in, she doesn't really know what's going on.
It's like, oh God, she's coming in thinking that's going to be just a lovely evening, possibly. Oh, Scarpia is going to give me a jewel, or he's going to do something for me. And so maybe I can gain some political interest for Mario and send something back to him, because he doesn't really realize that I'm that smart. And that's, I always think that she's more politically involved than anyone ever lets on.
And so she's having to pivot constantly. And then it gets just really harrowing, where Mario is there and the torture, and she's like having to figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I stay one step ahead here?
Absolutely. And it is trying to stay one step ahead, which is why she threatens to fling herself out the window, which is why when he says you can leave, she tries to leave. But you can have a cadaver waiting for you. Oh, wait, huh? And again, what now? It's the constant switching. She doesn't realize how venal, you know, how driven by his lower extremity is Scarpia is, until she says, how much do you want? She's just going, all right, I know how this works. I'm gonna give you a bribe, and you're gonna let him out, and we're gonna go on our way. It's gonna be fine. And he says, no. That's the moment she goes, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
Yes. So, I love the way you're getting into the depth here, because with the men, it seems like they're much more two-dimensional. Angelotti, Cavaradossi, you know, political goals, friendship, you know, that's it. And they have to sort of make plans, but it's all with one sort of goal: stay safe, stay alive. Whereas Tosca realizes, okay, there's a payment that's here now, or here I'm in the room, what's happened, who's being like, she's having to constantly shift.
Constantly pivot. And any woman who has been in any type of situation growing up, doesn't matter where you live, what your circumstances are, we all know what it's like to have to read a room, to adjust, because there are women's issues. And this is, one of my point of views, and when I play characters, it doesn't matter, is to play them all as feminists.
And why do you do? I like that you bring this to it, because opera is something that's written in the past, but it's reenacted today.
Yep.
And so if you try to live something that's only in the past and doesn't take into account the audience who's watching it, then it feels just boring. It's like, oh, she's, just doing what the guys want.
Yes.
But you're showing that they're written, and yet you can still bring in a sensibility today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of it is that we're still struggling as women to establish, and we're constantly still having to read the room to make sure that we know in advance that we're playing 10 steps ahead of what's happening. There's always that chess game that's being played. And Floria is a great chess player. That's the best way I can put it, is that she's a great chess player. But she also has her flaws. She loves power. She loves that Mario sees her for Floria. And she loves being fawned over by Scarpia for being Tosca.
Right.
And those are two different things.
Because it
Very.
seems with Mario, it's not just a flirtation. It's includes flirtation. And
it is true love. It's true love.
Yeah, between both
Absolutely. Of them. Yes. It is, and I can say this because with being an operatic diva, there is something about that persona, which there still doesn't matter how down to earth we all are when we meet us. There's still a level of, this is my job. I have to do my job. And there's a level of presentation that goes with that. But when you get home and you put on your sweatpants and you take the bra off and you just kind of go back and go, oh, it was a hard day, I'm tired. The public doesn't need to see that.
Right.
That's her Mario. Mario gets to see that side of Tosca.
Yeah.
And he gets to see, yes, he gets to see the good in her. And that's why they see each other. That's why they attract each other, because they pull out the good in each other. Oh, good. Recording's going again.
I promise I didn't touch anything.
That was an adventure, as always. But what we did is, it was so special to go to Benaroya and to have the orchestra up on stage. It was the first time I've gotten to sing with a big orchestra through a year and a half. And it was...
Oh, yes.
Nothing like it. And
we were feeling it watching it.
Seeing them up there, I was in tears. And then we were actually out in the house. We were sitting in the audience section and singing. And so we had microphones set up for each one of us. We had little stations where we could remove our masks and be able to sing. Great. But what would happen is we would go from there. We did a couple days of recording, and then they were working on the edits for the recordings and whatnot over the weekends. And then we began recording at St. James Cathedral, and they would play the section that we were videoing over the loudspeakers so we could sing along to ourselves.
Was that weird, singing with yourself?
Yes.
Or have you done this? I bet that must be strange.
I mean, it's a little disconcerting. It doesn't matter, because you're always a different person when you sing. From day 1 to day 2 to 3, it's even take 1, take 2, take 3. We're always just slightly different of how we inflect, or at least we hope we are, because that's the beauty of opera is that it is a living, breathing art form, and nothing is ever exactly the same as the last time.
Right.
So, and that's
to recreate that one. Yeah. And now you're in stage and you're in a new environment. You're having
my
gosh.
Yes. So it was, but so we would listen, and we would do our little scene, and then sometimes I would say, can we just listen to it real quick before we begin, so I can hear timing of breath. When I was recording, I was actually anticipating wanting to hear my breath. So I would actually make an audible breath to try to help myself hear when I wanted to breathe.
That is so smart, to anticipate. Oh, wait, I'm going to need to know. I'm going to have to do this again and make it, because it felt very compelling. And it's the magic where when I was watching it, I didn't even think, oh yeah, isn't the orchestra just there, in the foreground somewhere? And it's like, oh no.
Nope. No, it was put together in the edit bay. It was just good times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And even though it was you, it's still hard to be you at that moment again.
Right.
We have another question.
Please.
Going back to characterization, knowing how depraved Scarpia was, why did Tosca trust that Scarpia's free pass to the travel would actually work, that it was for real?
It is the only way she could get through the rest of the moment. I really believe that. I think deep down she knows it's not the truth. I really do. I think at her tiniest chord, but she shoves it down so far to be able to just get through. And it is a defense and a protection mechanism for her. If she doesn't have faith, again, this is where faith comes back in. That faith to be able to believe so intensely and so strongly that this has to be true. This has to be true. But I also believe that in Act 3, when she and Cavaradossi are going back and forth, that's a dance. It's a dance of dreaming and trying to make their memories last of who they are at their core with each other during the duet between the two of them. It's so special to think about. If I knew I was going to lose my partner, to have those last brief moments to tell them how much I love them and to remember all the good times.
That into it, and this was a great question, that both of them probably think maybe something can go wrong. Right. And so that's why that sort of is an extra thing, that duet isn't just the anticipation of more times together, but it could be sort of a final, oh my gosh, that's so harrowing.
Exactly.
Oh. Wow. It's so, you embody these roles. You get to be these roles, which is not easy. We know that Sarah Bernhardt was behind the play and all that wonderful pantomime. And I love how this production has the candlesticks there and it brings them together. And then you living today in 2021, and you're living in a pandemic, and yet you're having to jump into 1800 in Rome, the beginning of
like you do.
It's just, that's one of the real joys of being able to ask you these questions. And thank you for being so honest. We have another question. Great. And sort of jumping into Tosca and the psychology there, particularly in Act 2 with Scarpia. Does your Tosca ever fear that she might give in to Scarpia? Is she ever tempted? Or have you?
Oh, absolutely.
You've done this role a few times. Oh,
absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Tell me more, because he's such a cad, and yet
absolutely,
he knows how to appeal to her, and to be there when she's at her. He makes her vulnerable by questioning things in Act 1, and then he's sort of kind, and then he invites her to. So your Tosca thinks, wait a minute, maybe.
Oh yeah. There are people in your life when you find your partner, your soulmate, and the person you love and who knows you from your inside out. That's like your Cavaradossi. But there will be people in your life who you have a very strong chemical relationship with, who can cause you and cause that heat and cause that, oh God, reaction. And that is Scarpia to her. That is the heat. Mario is the long journey. Mario is long haul. And Scarpia is that person who can just make her go, I shouldn't feel that. I shouldn't feel that. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do this. Nope. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas in Scarpia, but it would be a fun night if she did.
Because there's an extreme in both of them.
Yes.
Where there's in such power, they both wield.
Yes.
They both wield. And
absolutely.
So I love this. Your Tosca, and that just makes her richer. It doesn't make her weaker at all, because she is very strong not to give in.
Right. And again, it's that seeing him as a predator, seeing him as a wolf. It goes back to the Scrappy, the shepherdess, coming back from the very beginning of her life, of where she had to take care. She's out for herself. I lived for art. I lived for love. Not we, I.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
It's so always I.
To share it with Cavaradossi and with.
It's a choice. It's a choice to share it.
Nice.
And it's that way. I know I've had those experiences where I have met those people that you go, ooh, you're dangerous. I need to make sure I have somebody with me when you're around me.
Which is so honest. It's so honest. We feel this way. And it can be different types of people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there a part, and this is my question, as you relive a character multiple times, now you change, as we all do each day. And, what was 3 years ago might be a little different now, might be a little different in 3 years. have you had that experience with approaching Tosca early on? And then, for example, like, oh, good. Tell me about something.
Oh yeah.
Have you
I
changed or gone more deep or?
Oh, the depth of understanding her as a character has only deepened as I've grown up as a human being. I mean, that's a reality. The younger you are, the less experienced you are. As you gain experience, as you get older, you gain more life experience, and therefore you can find more depth of the humanity of the characters you play. And when I started playing her, I had already gone through divorce. I had been through a lot of different things myself, so I had some life experience. It wasn't like I was a naive young pup singing her for the first time, but I from the first time to now, I have each time I approach her, I have to remember who I am now and what my life is like, and just ask myself new questions. And of course, singing with different scarpias, singing with different cavaradossis has been, and singing with different conductors has given completely different interpretations and also different directors. All of those influence my perception. And oh, I've never thought about it that way. That's great. Thank you so much for that.
Nice.
Being able to listen. I think that's one of the key things as an artist is that we really have to sit back and listen. And we have
When
to
you say
take
listen, are you talking about listening? Obviously, you were listening to your own voice, but listening to the other people on stage, the
to
conductor.
and listening to your colleagues in rehearsal and not being the one making the choices, but listening and going, how can I make that? Does that work with who I think Tosca is? And can I adjust my Tosca to include that version of who they think their Scarpia or their Cavaradossi or their Angelotti or their Sacristano? Can I shift my perception of my Tosca to envelop what they are doing so that it works as a cohesive unit instead of just I'm doing Tosca, you all can come with me on this ride.
Which sounds like it would be very off-putting to be on stage and to be reacting in a way, and then to have somebody not notice what's going on. Right. Were there some things that were a little different in this production that sort of brought out another side of Tosca that you hadn't? And I know I'm asking this out of the blue. Just
fine. I'm good. I love this. It's great. No, having someone. I was actually Dominic Chenis's first Tosca, his first time out doing Cavaradossi. So to have him come back and do it again with me, we've done it before, and we've both grown and changed over the years ourselves. So we were both in new places, and
but
that was
familiarity, yet it was different.
Totally. However, Michael Chioldi and I had never met until we met on this production. Well, I think we met at a Starbucks once in New York, but who doesn't meet at Starbucks in New York? Especially as singers. But Michael and I immediately had chemistry as far as our perception of who these characters were. And we locked into that with each other, which is why we had so much fun in Act 2.
Yeah, there's, because just to see you, and particularly when there was like on your face and the sort of the fear, the horror, the scheming a little bit, but just I felt like I could read it in a way that maybe I've never seen a filmed Tosca before. And so it just felt so immediate, and there was an intimacy, even though, and it's hard for me to actually think of this, but you guys were socially distant.
Completely. When I'm stabbing him, he wasn't anywhere nearby.
And that just with the camera angles, really nice work. So because it didn't feel distant.
Right. Avanti a lui tremava tutta Roma was to a camera. Michael was not on the desk at all. That was only to a camera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No. So there are things, it's kind of, and we watch opera to be kind of, to jump into that world and to be sort of guided as to please look at this or think of this, or during the Te Deum, which usually you can barely find the characters on stage, it's so huge at the end of Act 1. And yet there was something incredibly powerful with all the shadows, and I mean, it was sort of harrowing too.
So good. It's so good.
Really, this production really works beautifully. And you guys are amazing. I
Oh,
hate to say that we're near the end of our time, so I want to give people a last moment if you want to pop in a question. I think we still have some time for that. And also, is there something that you want to tell us that, and again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but watching this production as you were filming it, as sort of things you think about Tosca?
oh gosh. I'm just I'm beyond floored and honored, and truly it is humbling to come back out to Seattle for a second time in one season, first off, during a pandemic, and to get the opportunity to sing this role for a company and for a city that I love so much. I was so close to moving to Seattle instead of coming to Chicago. And to know that this was being done for a company that is at my heart, and I would do anything for. It's so special. It's so incredibly. It's hard to not get emotional about it because it
Oh,
means so much to me. You know, Aaron found me at a competition in San Jose. I think 2011, 2012. And he came up to me and said, "Okay, I need you to do this and this and come and sing for Spate." And I went, "Huh?" And so I did, and then my journey was off and running at that point in time. And
Seattle has really good ears in who they
yeah,
hear and who they see, and this sort of continuing relationship. I really, in my few years, really, because I've always been aware of Seattle, but sort of noticing it is a special place. I agree.
very special. It is a home to me. And I mean that sincerely. I'm very lucky to have a few operatic homes, and Seattle is most definitely one of them to me.
It's a good one. It's one of your West Coast places.
I'm good with it. I'm real good with it.
So I can't help but ask, your family who supported you, who's just, gave you all this music and all this stuff in your sonic world and supported your going through the clarinet. And then it sounds like, were they unhappy when you moved into singing, or what? How did they, are they still around?
Oh,
Did they come and
oh
hear?
yeah.
Oh,
My parents have basically come to every production I've ever done.
oh, I love that.
They try to come to every production. They are aging now, and that is hard.
Yeah.
So they're slowing down a bit,
And
and
you're
so
singing a lot, hopefully even more after the pandemic. So you're keeping them busy.
I am. But they, you know, for a while in college and whatnot, it was because my parents are in their late 70s, 80s, and music was kind of supposed to be a hobby. It wasn't supposed to be a full-time job. So it was a journey to find the balance between me really wanting to do this and actually being able to do this. And then when my mentor called me in 2008 and called me one summer, I finished my divorce. I was really getting my life together in Florida, and I was good, and I was doing the thing, and I was fine. I was happy. We'll say I was happy.
Yeah.
But
You were
she
there.
called,
Uh-huh.
but she called me that summer and said, "Lexi, it's time. And forgive, I'm going to quote her, so forgive what's about to come out of my mouth." The quote was, "It's time, Lexi. You either get your ass to New York or you get the hell out of the studio."
Yeah, I can see
You
why you
have a,
like her. That kind of directness is important.
yeah. And you have a week to think about this. But Carol, can I have a little, and she's like, "Fine, you have a month."
Okay.
And so in that month, I talked to my family, and I will never forget going out to dinner with my parents and with my sister and my brother at one point, and them all looking at me and saying, "Would you regret not trying by the time you were 50?" And I said, "Yeah, I would.
Wow,
I
what a
would have
great.
I would absolutely regret not trying." So I continued to try every year, and I continued to see small goals, and
Oh, thank God you keep
somehow
trying and you're doing it. Yay. Please, please stay in. This is
thank,
amazing.
thank you.
Oh my goodness. I fear, unfortunately, that we need to sort of close this conversation. But Lexi, I am really looking forward to our paths crossing, even when you don't know it. And I'm just sitting there listening and
You
being
better tell me when you're in, if you're around. You better tell me, please.
Are you kidding? Because you can't keep me away now.
Good.
What a pleasure. And thank you for just being so generous with sharing stuff. I love that we have this adoption connection in our world. And thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you gotta be honest about it. We're humans, and we have to be humans who are being, not just human beings, but humans who are being.
Oh, I like that. I haven't heard that. Humans who, well, let's keep being, and being
Yeah.
human are being.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It is really a pleasure. Let me remind everyone that you have this interview will be put up online, and you can watch this production of Tosca through June 27th. The subscribers get to have it it started Friday. You can watch it right now. And the people who are just buying this single ticket from June 25th through the 27th. Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
It's an honor, truly. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who's watching. I can't see you, but hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.